Hello, all of you beautiful people. I had a review up of a movie called Shadow Dead Riot, but apparently either my microphone is not compatible with my new camcorder, or my new camcorder is not compatible with my life. So, this is the low data and low memory way, and most definitely low effort way of bringing you a more quality video you can actually hear of my review of Shadow Dead Riot. Now, we get into this. We open with Tony Todd in a bad wig. He's on death row. He's about to be executed by lethal injection. He's putting symbols on the floor and everything. And then when they come in and they do the lethal injection, he explodes. Now, we learn that Tony Todd's character is named Shadow, and that Shadow is like a vampire, but not like, an undead one, at least not originally. And Shadow thinks the blood of pregnant women is just tastier than regular blood. So that was what he would do. That's why he's being executed, is because he would kidnap and hold pregnant women and keep them. Now, this review is going to contain spoilers, so if you want to see this movie, I'd recommend. It's just a little popcorn movie. It's goofy, it's out there, it's not like high art, but if you know what you're getting into, that's fine. Now let's get into it. This film is about a girl named Solitaire, and she comes to the prison after it has been reformed into a women's prison. And I forgot this last time I did this review, but after Shadow dies and explodes everywhere, a riot breaks out. Because that's the title of the movie. And so all the cops just kill all those male guards and then bury them in the property. That's actually really important, and I forgot it twice. But whatever. We're doing our best here. It's just a lot. So Solitaire is there with some white lady that acts with her hands, because that's rule number 1 of acting school. If you're going to act, you better act with your hands. And she's talking about the great prison system we have here, but the doctor and a female guard have another prison system, a sexual favor prison system. And Solitaire is not afraid of the big head bitch in charge, Mondo. So when Solitaire stands up to Mondo and beats the crap out of her, Solitaire gets put in solitary. Solitaire has a pregnant cellmate named Emily, and one thing I will give this actress is she actually acted pregnant. I know that those little baby bump things that they make you take in that class, or the prop bumps, are heavy, but they're not as heavy as like an actual fetus being inside you. And she acted like she'd actually been pregnant before. So Solitaire gets some granola bars from Emily. She winces as she sits down. She acts like this baby thing is heavy to carry. And Solitaire tries to get good behavior and just do whatever she has to do. But unfortunately, when Shadow exploded, the doctor was there when it happened, and he kept some of Shadow's blood, and he tries to put it in Mondo, and it doesn't work out. And unfortunately, they have to bury Mondo in the same place that they buried all the other people. And the guard the female guard that's exchanging sexual favors to the people, more or less coercing them into sex. One of her little favorites, in the most ridiculous way possible, like, breaks something and bleeds out onto the lawn, and every time somebody bleeds on the lawn, Shadow gets a little bit more power until eventually he comes back and he brings all of his zombie buddies with him. And the doctor has been dosing Solitaire, Emily, this fucking tweaker bitch, and everyone a little bit at a time with Shadow's blood. And then once the shit hits the fan completely, all of the zombies are back and they're all after Solitaire and the pregnant girl. Now, one thing I would remove out of this, the one thing I would change, is that instead of the pregnant girl, I mean, I guess I understand why it happened. The pregnant girl's baby, she was getting dosed with Shadow's blood, so of course her baby comes out deformed. But you know what I would have done? I would have had her baby come out normal and then just had her, like, ending be ambiguous. She's just in the basement somewhere with her kid. You don't know if she gets out or whatever. And yeah, I am kind of speeding through this because I did have to do it twice. But ultimately, Solitaire, like I said about Shadow, he lived on the blood of pregnant women, and Solitaire's mother was one of the women that he kept hostage. And she found this out when she was put in solitary and touched some of the symbols that he left in the floor. So the thing that's there to defeat him is in her pitcher. In a pitcher her mom keeps with her. Or she keeps of her... She keeps with her of her mom. So she opens up the frame, she finds a little blade, she stabs it in the symbol of, on Shadow's hand, and then everybody dies. We're all good. Interesting things that happen. One time when they're going and they're trying to save some of the girls from the prison, there's a girl who shoves all of her guts back into her body, and then they try and save her. However, once your entrails are out on the ground, there's not really a lot of saving you. And the creepy female cop that's harassing and coercing all the women, one of the girls that bled out on the ground and then got stolen by one of the zombie people before they all came back from the dead full force and just got consumed by Shadow so his soul could come back from the dead and whatever. One of those girls took her zombie revenge on the evil bitch. And the guard, it just doesn't, like, the warden, it doesn't make sense how she dies. Like, I'm thinking maybe it was a deleted scene, and it made sense in a deleted scene. But, to be honest, this movie isn't really that deep. It's, like, so full of titties. It's a titties and blood and guts popcorn movie. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, I don't even know what I'd give it a rating. If you really want me to give it a rating, I'd give it for 3 stars. Because it was entertaining. So, giving this one a 3 out of 5. You can get it on Tubi. Absolutely free. Watch it and decide for yourself. And since I have you here, we're also going to talk about A Grimoire Dark by D.S. Quentin. And this one was a book that I listened to on Audible. Why are we doing this? Because I recorded both of these videos and you can't hear them at all. So, here we are. A Grimoire Dark is about a young girl named Delphine who has just gotten out of the orphanage. And they're similar in some themes, so I guess there'll be this tenuous connection with the two. My cats are playing with something in the background. Delphine is going to her first job. She's 18. She's going to be, I don't know, a copy editor or something for a newspaper. And it takes place in 1963. And she meets a guy named Frank, and then Frank tells her, "Oh, I know that newspaper. They're not open on the weekends." And then she says, "Oh, but Frank, can I come with you and do some investigating?" And then he says, "Well, I guess so," because that's what she really wants to do. I don't know why she wants to be a cop when she was an orphan before. But she has a friend named Jimmy. He is a special needs friend. And then there's this one weird girl who makes her kind of uncomfortable that's at the orphanage. And then there's a nun. There's a bitch. And she lives in a halfway house ran by this woman named Mama Day. And as she's investigating, she meets Louisiana Slim, who tells her about this gator that, ate a dude. And it wasn't no normal gator, and Louisiana Slim sings at her and talks about fifole. And somewhere along the line, they pick up a grimoire and they take it to a guy named Armand. And Armand is like, "Oh my gosh, hey, I know about this thing. I know about all these things." And then he's like, "But we need to talk to somebody who really knows." And that's Mama Day. And then she's like, the head of my halfway house? I'm speeding through this one too. But anyway, shit, should change the name to Allison Miller's Low Quality Reviews instead of Low Effort. But anyway, she goes there and she talks to her, and then we find out that Delphine, spoiler alert, is the descendant. I always get those fucking words mixed up, transcendent and descendant, even though they don't mean the same thing. Not even close. I'm tired, I'm sorry. But she is the descendant of this long gone voodoo priestess and voodoo priest, like the great-great-granddaughter or something like that, of Tremaine, I think. And Marie Laveau. And Marie Laveau and Tremaine had a love affair that ended badly, like Valmont and Mertoy. And they just decided to fuck with each other with voodoo and hoodoo forever. And when Marie cursed him with horse herpes and cursed his daughter with horse herpes because he decided her kid should die of consumption, somehow Marie cursed him so that his soul would be tethered to this weird gator man for life or something like that. It's kind of unclear. But there's strange things happening around them. The girl that makes Delphine feel awkward, that's at the orphanage, actually has a crush on her, but it's 1963 and they're both Creole, so they can't. Well, actually, I don't think Josephine is Creole, because I think she's described as having red hair and green eyes. But then again, I don't know. All I know is that Delphine is described as having brown skin and curly hair. Now, the curious case of Delphine is that when she was 10, her mom and dad died in a fire. And instead of knowing this in the first chapter, we get this from Josephine's perspective, where Josephine is like waxing poetic about how beautiful she is when she emerges from the mist and all that stuff. Which, if I were a beta reader, I would have told D.S. Quentin to just put it in the first chapter. And I would have told D.S. Quentin to not fuck with the newspaper people at all, because in the end, Delphine doesn't actually end up working for the newspaper people, not even a day. So I would have had her go straight from the orphanage to working for Frank as a personal assistant. There are a few other characters in here. There's a guy where all the fuck words are. His name is Eddie. I nicknamed him Venom because I think he's talking to himself and he's got a lot of problems. He's a musician and he makes a deal with the Gator guy. And the Gator guy traps people by giving them a rash. He gives a rash to the chief of police. He gives a rash to this woman named Susan, and he gives a rash to the shitty, creepy nun that does something called sin washings. And one time when we're in Josephine's perspective, the nun it's kind of like I think they're washing her hoo-ha, if we're being honest. And the creepy gator man, later come to be known as the Gree man, targets Jimmy, the special needs boy from the orphanage, and the nun is like, let me beat this little boy. So Josephine, tired of living with that fucking nun, and tired of not having her love for Delphine recognized, goes out and makes a deal with the Gree man. She doesn't get a rash or anything, but he says, yo, I'll give you this nun if you let me be with Delphine. And he's like, alright. And she does a bad doo-doo, and she tells him that her last name is Laveau. And I don't remember her last name. Whatever. But, as we know, Delphine is the Laveau, not Josephine. So, I missed this part. I'm not sure what happened, but Delphine has to have some hair of one of the people to control them, because Delphine learns how to trance. So when she goes back to make sure that her best friend Jimmy isn't being sent off to the funny farm, Josephine pulls her in and gives her a kiss, and then Delphine's like, you know what, I need some of this woman's hair anyway, so she kisses her back and like runs her hand through her hair and all of that stuff. Some major shit goes down. People have to read from the Grimoire. I kind of spaced out sometimes, because if I could be honest with you, the first half of this book is great. The second half is just by the numbers. It's almost like the author was writing along and was really passionate about it, and then he set it down or something and forgot it existed, and then he picked it back up and he didn't even really read his notes. That's how this thing feels. Anyway, the nun, oh right, yeah, the people that got the rash and all of that, I think the one guy turns them into weasels so that there could be a joke about weasels in a trench coat. You know the whole thing? I'm really 4 squirrels in a trench coat or something like that. But yeah, the guy kidnaps these people and uses their brain, the chief of police, Eddie, and Susan, and turns them into weasels, and all the weasels are in the trench coat. Silly sauce. Anyway, Delphine tries to trance to save some people because she fucked up, and she gets stuck, and then they gotta save her, and then there's this ultimate showdown at the end, and Josephine kisses her again to get her out of the trance and keep her safe. Oh yeah, and the nun catches fire. This nun was a piece of shit, and she deserved it. There's this one story that I'm going to tell you before I go on and give you all the spoilers of this book. One of my favorite actors went to school in Florida, and this nun used to smack him over the head with rulers and be really rude to him and, like, pinch him with claws and shit, like her fingernails. So one day he picked her up and hung her on a coat rack. So, like, totally hang abusive nuns on coat racks. All the time. Any chance you get. Pop a bitchy nun in the mouth. Oh, man. This video's not going to go over well with the Catholic Church. Whatever. So, unfortunately, Josephine shows up to be gay and then get attacked by the Gree man. She sacrifices herself, and then everybody's safe-ish. Armand is safe, Jimmy is safe, Mama Day and Frank are safe, but Josephine is somehow broken the bounds. But it's a series, so there's going to be more. The most interesting thing about this book was the audiobook narrator, and a lot of the prose gets really pretty and it gets really descriptive. But like I said, about the first half feels really good and it's really enjoyable because I felt there was a lot of passion there. But then the second half is a lot of filter words and a lot of head hopping. And the first half was so tightly written and so well told that even the audiobook narrator starts kind of getting crappy after a while. Like, not crappy, but kind of like the passion just dies. And I can tell the passion dies. It's pretty sad. But an audiobook narrator is like a model. There was this one time on Project Runway where this guy had these hideous clothes, but he had an excellent model. So it was always like, oh my god, Trevor, or whatever the fuck his name was. You're so talented. It's like, no, Marlena the model is talented. Trevor is a hack. And I'm not saying that D.S. Quentin is a hack, but I don't think I would have read this book with my eyes. The audiobook narrator really sells it, and his name is Alan Grunrud. So there you have it. A fun, happy, dorky horror movie that's about a woman in a prison that accidentally, like, she has nothing to do with it, but the other women in the prison bring a zombie guy back to life, and a zombie guy comes back to life. So, yeah, these are actually closer in themes than I think. Have a good day. Bye.